Hi everyone, today we're trying one of my all-time favorite cakes, strawberry shortcake. I'll be testing 2 different recipes and comparing the final results at the end just for fun. Quick disclaimer, I miscalculated the portions for the second recipe, so that cake ended up being about a quarter of the size of the first one. For the first recipe, we'll be using whole eggs, and for the second, we'll separate the yolks and whites. So for this first recipe, we'll mix 2 whole eggs and sugar together until they're light and fluffy. This literally took me almost 20 minutes of straight whisking. Using a wireless mixer really tested my arm strength. It's definitely not for the weak. I also learned from another experienced baker that moving the mixer around too much while whisking is actually kind of counterproductive. So next time I'll keep it a bit more still and just let it do its thing. Now we're gonna gently fold in the flour so the batter stays nice and fluffy. Also, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who feels this way, but strawberry shortcake is surprisingly hard to find in Canada. The only place I know that makes a decent one is Brecca. Otherwise, I usually only get to enjoy it when I visit Japan. So if you're in Canada, let me know in the comments where you usually get your strawberry shortcakes. After folding in the flour, we'll mix a small portion of the batter with a bit of butter and honey, pour that back into the main batter, and then combine everything well. I've watched so many videos of people making sponge cake, so I try to copy their mixing technique as closely as I could. If there's anything I should change about how I'm mixing the batter, let me know in the comments. I am open to constructive feedback, always. Now we're just gonna prepare the cake pan so that we could pour the batter in. I was really struggling to get the sizing right, so I asked my fiance for help, and he was just as lost as I was. It didn't help that I also had no idea what I was doing. After baking this cake, I learned there's actually a much easier way to cut parchment paper so it fits perfectly in the pan. We're now gonna prep the whipped cream while the cake bakes. I didn't measure the sugar for this step because that's just how my mom used to do it too when she made whipped cream desserts. She'd just go by feel depending on the day. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but I'm only using 1 whisk attachment. I honestly don't know if that's a bad idea, but it worked, so that's all that matters. Please also enjoy the next 20 seconds of me low-key panicking and not knowing how to get the cake out of the tin. This was when I thought the cake tin was gonna burn a hole through the cloth, so I changed my mind. I knew I had to remove the cake tin right away, but I didn't actually think about how until the moment came. So I also learned that with sponge cakes, you're supposed to cool them upside down so it prevents them from collapsing under its own weight and it keeps the fluffiness. So here's me attempting that right now. But let's be real, what I baked is more like bread than cake, so there was really no need to flip it upside down right away. Can you tell I was so stressed here? Here's me free-handing the slicing, fully expecting to mess it up. My heart was beating so fast at this point, but somehow it turned out to be one of the cleanest cuts I've ever done. Definitely got lucky with that one. The cake was actually fluffy, so I was really excited to decorate it, but then I realized I didn't have the right tools, so I had to use this flat spatula thing. The angle was so awkward it almost made my hand cramp up. I was just in my zone, no thoughts, just spreading out the whipped cream on the cake. Next, I sliced some strawberries thinly and placed them on the cake. For context, I had bought these strawberries a while ago and left them in the fridge a bit too long, so most of them had already gone bad by the time I started baking this cake. I managed to salvage 5 good ones, but had to save 3 for the main decoration on top. I'm sure you've noticed by now that I wore this red sweater to match the strawberries in this cake. It's so soft and comfy, and I wanted my outfit to keep my mood positive just in case the cake didn't turn out well. Good thing it turned out okay on my first try. Next time I want to make the batter lighter and fluffier so I can at least add 2 layers of cream in the middle. Now we're gonna put the lid on this cake. Honestly, it's more like bread or a very thick pancake, and then I'll add more whipped cream to cover the whole thing. As you can tell, using a plate as a turntable wasn't easy. Trying to spin it without shifting the center while applying an even layer of cream really tested my patience. Right after baking this cake, I went on Amazon and bought a proper cake turntable. I realized that if I want to improve my cake decorating skills, I need the right tools. I just hope it was a good decision. Okay, so I put the cake in the fridge for about an hour, and now we're gonna add another layer of cream to set everything in place. This part was pretty satisfying, and I slowly started to get the hang of using a plate as a turntable. Maybe I should cancel my Amazon order after all. Once the whole cake is coated in cream, we'll decorate the top with the 3 strawberries I managed to salvage. Now that I think about it, it's not really decorating if I'm just placing 3 strawberries on top. Anyways, this is the final result of the first recipe. It's definitely flatter than I imagined, but not too bad for my very first try. I'll show you the layers when I compare it with the second recipe. As I mentioned earlier, this one is about 1/4 the size of the first cake. I added some sugar to the egg whites and whisked it until it formed a meringue-like texture. At this point, I was a little concerned because, as you can see, there wasn't much air in the egg whites and the mixture was very sticky. I even triple-checked the recipe, but their batter looked completely different from mine right from the very first step. I thought about redoing it, but not gonna lie, I just wanted it to be done. So I just moved on to the next step of adding the egg yolk into the egg white mixture. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the batter of the first recipe and that of the second. The texture looks so different. The first one on the right is definitely more fluffy and airy. I added a little bit of the batter to a bowl of melted butter, mixed it well, and then poured it back into the main bowl. I mean, look at this, the batter looks so wrong. There's barely any air in it, it's a little clumpy for some reason, and the texture is far too thick for a strawberry shortcake. I was tempted to give up right then and there, but I was still curious to see how it would turn out after baking. Here's what it looked like when I took it out of the oven. It seems to have shrunk and is still flat. And don't mind the cake to parchment paper ratio, I had high hopes that this one would be fluffier. The struggle of trying to control this cake was embarrassing. I could have easily just used my hands to handle it, because I'm sure a cake that small would have cooled down so quickly. After wrestling with the cake, I wrapped it in plastic wrap and let it rest in the fridge. Here's the final result of the second recipe. I would rate it a 1 out of 10. It still kind of looks like a cake, especially on the inside, but that's about it. When I compared it to a slice from the first cake, the difference was crazy. The one on the left is just so dense, rubbery, and probably not even edible, while the one on the right isn't as fluffy as a typical sponge cake, but still looks edible. I'm curious to learn more about the technical side of how to create a lighter, fluffier batter. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what other recipes I should try next and share any tips you have for making the perfect sponge cake. Thanks for watching!